What follows after this short introduction is my crazy flying friend Steve Markham. A couple of broadcasts, but first of all, yes, this is Airplace, Robin's Corner, with a warning sign about Air Cat Toady, where GPS was tested in the late 80s onward. Garden sculpture from my wife June, who you'll see in a moment. Oak tree dropping acorns everywhere. I'm thinking of getting some pigs for our front lawn, if they like acorns. Our camper with the battle damage. June said Robin did it, Robin said the wall did it, but the wall is okay. Oh yes, flatulent gnomes from advanced technology from Australia, warning signs and cameras everywhere. Make sure you read the small print of the warning signs about water squirters. So we go into the house. Yeah, tennis stuff everywhere. And June found the article on ITV News, wasn't it?
Yes.
And so we're going to play that before we then roll into the one that we found yesterday from the BBC. So let's play it.
Now, all of us have probably harboured a childhood dream, but a retired engineer from Hampshire has finally made his a reality.
Yes, Steve Markham has built his very own replica Spitfire from scratch. It's taken him 16 years and thousands of hours of dedication. Christine Alsford has been to meet him.
Ever since he was 8 years old, Steve Markham has always wanted to own and fly a Spitfire. And now he's finally at the controls after a 16-year labour of love to build one from scratch.
How does that feel after all that time?
Absolutely fantastic. I don't think I could ever do anything better. I've achieved that ambition, and there are no other ambitions sort of lined up after it, just to fly and enjoy it.
Steve tried to buy a real Spitfire a couple of times, but ended up being outbid. So in 2006, he bought a kit and started to piece together his own 80% replica of a spy plane from the Second World War. With a little help from his friends and his wife Kay, it took more than 11,000 hours to complete.
So Steve, before you actually built the Spitfire, had you actually made any planes before?
Well, I've made lots of airfix kits when I was a small boy, but no, I hadn't made a real one.
So nothing on this scale?
Nothing on this scale at all.
To the man in the street, perhaps the most amazing machine is the Spitfire.
Unlike other Spitfires, spy planes like PL-793, which was based at RAF Odiham, flew unarmed behind enemy lines gathering photo intelligence. Steve in awe of the role they played.
When you are in the cockpit, how much are your thoughts with those that actually flew these in combat?
All the time. They did such a tremendous job, and they had no navigation aids, no GPS. I think those pilots were really something special.
After test flights, the plane is now certified by the Civil Aviation Authority, which means Steve is free to explore far and wide.
Well, I'm going to be flying it all over the place. First trip with my wife will be just to the Isle of Wight for an ice cream and a cup of tea, I think. And next June, when the days are very long, I want to go from here all the way to Rome non-stop, have an Italian meal for lunch and fly back again the same day just because I can.
He also plans to show his plane to help raise money for the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund and share tales of a DIY project that few can top. Christine Alsford, ITV News.
Excellent.
Yeah, you know, I'm quite impressed. I put some shelves up.
Yeah.
That's quite the project.
Yeah.
Well, that was it, and now we roll into the BBC TV broadcast which you had yesterday. Well done, Steve. Okay.
A plane used during World War II, but this one is different. It's not from decades past. This Spitfire is actually brand new and built from scratch by a man who desperately wanted one but couldn't afford an original. Now it is finally taken to the skies, as Duncan Kennedy reports.
What do you do when a childhood ambition takes off in your dreams? Steve Markham always wanted to have his own Spitfire. But instead of buying one, he built one.
The Spitfire to me is the best aircraft that has ever been built. I just love flying it.
It's a copy of a World War II Spitfire photo reconnaissance aircraft, and it took Steve more than 11,000 hours to make. Has this been a labour of love?
There were times when I did have some deep despair. It would be untrue to say not, but most of the time I just loved doing it.
Steve was inspired as a boy by this film about wartime fighter pilot Douglas Bader and fell in love with the Spitfire's graceful lines. He began the project in 2006, and bit by bit, from airframe to avionics, he and his wife Kay spent 11 years making it. Down the years, Steve did try and buy a Spitfire, but was often outbid. One already made would cost between £2 and £4 million. The Civil Aviation Authority has cleared Steve's plane to fly. It may be a replica, but this is one man's tribute to an iconic original. Duncan Kennedy, BBC News, in Hampshire.
That is quite a hobby. Let's have a look at the weather now. Nick Miller is here.
I'll start with something that most of us haven't seen today.
Well done,
That's
Steve.
The sunshine.
And
In
Kay.
northern Scotland, but most of the rest of us have been close to weather fronts with cloud, some rain that moved north overnight with the rain, and then tomorrow.
Here's Steve and I at his Spitfire party back in 2019. So only remains to say, look after yourselves, stay safe, and enjoy what days we have.